everybody. Welcome to Quest, the adventure game podcast. I'm Ben.
And I am Jess.
We almost got that time. Bring you in.
Yeah, no, I couldn't. I was just sitting here. You had so much energy when you came in.
Yeah.
I just couldn't hold it inside anymore. You were like a 9, and I was coming in at maybe like a 3.
Yeah.
And I was like, if I wait much longer, I'm gonna be down at 2. So I gotta get in there while I can.
Yeah, get in while the getting's good. I'm Ben. I Twitch stream adventure games as PS_Garrick, GARAK, and Jess.
I stream adventure games as twitch.tv/Decaf Jedi. Yeah, get that / in there. Yes, colon / Don't you hate when people call / backslashes? Is this your? This is my biggest pet peeve in the world.
Really?
Yes.
I'm probably. Here's the thing. I'm probably one of.
No,
I probably am. I don't know which way the slash is. Who knows? There's slashes. Forward or backward. Who knows? It's a mystery.
I don't know. It's you millennials, I think, is the problem. Hey, this is a millennial issue. I've been waiting to grind this axe with you ever since this podcast started 19 episodes ago. I don't know what order we're airing.
Is this something you're going to teach your daughter? Like, have you been taking her to Slash's school?
Yeah, actually, you know who teaches there? Slash from Guns N' Roses.
Wow.
He's the headmaster. He comes in there and he's got the hair in his face. He's got the cigarette. He's like, today we're going to learn about backslashes. I don't know if that's what Slash sounds like, but I don't go to school with her because she's a big kid.
Yeah, she's a big kid. You don't have to be there.
That's right.
So before we get to even the thing we do before we talk about what we're supposed to talk about, I have to set a little more ground rules here, which is that speaking of not like I feel like I haven't adequately introduced that like I've played around with in the last 2 podcasts that the tool that we use to record this has a soundboard. I've never introduced that. I've just occasionally dropped them in, and you've kind of no sold me on them. Like I would play a sound effect, and that I think that's on me. I feel like I have to introduce that I have a soundboard, and I want to make it clear, if I play a sound effect while you're talking or something, that's me trolling you.
Yes, that is an act of aggression.
That's an act of aggression, and it's extra aggressive because you do not have that capability.
No, I don't. I have to do all of my own Foley work myself. Like, I'm sitting here with like a sheet of metal in case I need to create like a thunder sound later. And I've got like a little board of wood to do footsteps on. I mean, it's the best I can muster here.
Yeah, like on my previous podcast that I did, the soundboard was I would say about 70%. So not only was 70% used for evil.
Like I don't know how to use a soundboard not for evil.
Yeah.
Is there a kind use for a soundboard?
Oh, I mean, in our in that podcast, which the last best Babylon 5 podcast, I also would use it for like playing clips from the episode that we were discussing.
Okay.
So that was actually quite useful. But then sometimes I would just play like, the sound of an eagle, screaming, or like, a toilet flushing.
Yeah.
Or something like that. And that was explicitly to just, like harass. That was used only for evil. Like, if I like, it would be like something like this. Like, there were 1 or 2 where I just went full morning zoo.
Yeah.
And so I understand. This isn't the same podcast. That podcast is dead and buried. Babylon 5's never coming back. But me harassing people with a soundboard, something that's going to remain in my life forever, because I've tasted from the cup of Christ, and
You
I
famously
I'm
did carry around a soundboard.
yeah.
you know, could we get maybe a sound clip of some crickets chirping for when I no sell the other sound effects? Like,
Oh,
just
I think I have, like, the thing about this is that well, number one, I have all of my all of my sound effects from that previous podcast. I do have only a couple slots in this, but like, so let's say I do this at you, and you no sell me.
that's
There we
perfect.
go.
And
Yeah.
that kaboing, can I get that again?
Oh, the timpani, one of the great sound effects.
Yes. You see, I think that is a great segue to maybe introduce our topic today before we jump into what we've been playing. I mean, we are going to be talking comedy today, and that's a classic comedy sound. That's another one. Laughter is, I'd recognize that anywhere. Another classic comedy sound.
That's laugh. Yeah, when it comes to comedy, laughs are important.
Now, and when I say laughs, I think we're both on the same page here. That I mean LAFFS, right? Like when we're talking laughs, we're spelling that with two F's.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But no, Ben, what have you been playing lately? Before we start talking comedy, what have you
Yeah.
been playing?
So I started playing recently this game called Core Keeper,
Okay,
which is it was in early access for like, I don't know, 2 or 3 years, and it's just one of those, like, you're running around a cave and it's in pixely 2D graphics, and you mine through walls and you make a little house and you fight monsters. It's just one of those games.
just one of those games.
Just one of those. It's just one of those. It is
It's
a
a cave 'em up.
solid B plus. Like, just, I'm playing it and I'm satisfied, and then when I put it down, guess what? I'm like, I have not felt any need to return to it. But then I put it on when I'm playing it. I'm like, time to like put on the baseball game or something. Like, it is. I've played, I've played Terraria, and I've played all of the games that this is just straight up
Mhm.
aping. And I never got into Minecraft. But I've played plenty of like dig a hole games. And
Have you played Dig Dug? That's my favorite in the genre.
I've played Dig Dug 2.
Oh,
What was the name of Dig Dug 2? It's not very good. Um, but
Dig
there's a
Dug
Dig Dug
Junior.
2. No, I don't know if there's a Dig Dug Junior, but there's
I
a
don't
Dig
think
Dug
there is.
2, and it's not fun. Or am I think there is a Dig Dug 2, but is there also a Mappy 2? I'm like, now I'm thinking of all these like poor arcade sequels. Like, there was a Frogger sequel,
Yeah.
3 Deep, which I don't know if that was ever like in the arcades. I don't know if that was just like a console, like, because I remember like
Yeah, there's lots
playing.
of bad Frogger. Like
Oh,
every 15
Frogger.
years. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just like let's just bust it. Like it won't be regular Frogger anymore. It will be worse. But we're going to put it out there on the market anyway because Frogger has such brand recognition. I don't know if there was this
Yeah, no,
obscure.
I know exactly what you're talking about. There
Yeah.
Frogger, just yeah, you're right. Like, it's like 15 years. Like, there will be like, there was an SNES like Frogger
Mhm.
era. There is a N64. They tried, and the thing is that like Frogger is never as good as that first game. Like, is
You aren't going
there
to beat Frogger. I mean, it's the Pac Man problem. It's like, what are you going to do better than Pac Man and Miss Pac Man? I mean, Miss Pac Man iterates in a nice way, but how are you going to beat that?
all right, well, first off, email us at questquestpodcast@gmail.com if there is a good, because I'm sincerely curious if there is a good Frogger beyond Frogger.
Mm-hmm. How about the game Beyond Frogger? Just like,
I mean, that could be
yeah.
coming. You know what I was fun was, I think this came out like in the early aughts. I was in high school when it came out. The Pong, like the 3D, like when Atari, like, or Infogrames, who owned Atari, like the Atari brand at the time. Like they did Centipede, and I think they did a Missile Command, and then they
Mm-hmm.
did a Pong, and there were like different Pong levels. Like you were in like a forest and in an ice place, and there were penguins and stuff like that. That was fun. You know what? I'm gonna go find that. That's what I'm playing this week. Core Keeper B plus. It's perfectly fine. It has co-op, which I hear makes it a lot more fun. I'm sure that will make it more compelling. But then what will happen is when I play those games with my friends are so much more intense about like those craft base
Yeah.
builders, and
Yes.
so like I'll play it for like 2 or 3 hours a week, and then I'll
Mm-hmm.
come back and I have friends that will put like, I don't know, 15, 20 hours in a
Yeah.
week. And like the little base that we started with is now like the mega base, and they have all the perfect armor and stuff like that. And I'm just like, I just want to dig a hole.
That's my problem with this genre. I can't play it in a healthy way. Like if I'm in a game like that, I am your friend who has built, like the Taj Mahal out of little dirt clods while you've been offline all week. That's absolutely me.
That is
I just
you?
don't. Yeah, that is. So I just don't play that genre. I can't play that genre in a healthy way. I
Yeah,
just get it like.
if I was playing with you and you were doing that, I would say,
Oh, behave.
uh,
I
see,
mean,
now we're starting to
yeah,
integrate the soundboard
yeah.
in a more healthy way.
That's
Uh,
right. I mean, well, and absolutely. And the thing is, I think what's most important about this soundboard, timely. It's like adventure games.
What have you been? Wait, before you seg to what
I'm
people
not
actually.
sagging. I'm not
Okay,
sagging.
good.
But coming up, no. What have I been playing? Is
Yeah, yeah.
that's
What
the
are
big
you playing?
question? Speaking of classic arcade games, Ben, I'm back on my Galaga shit.
Oh,
I
you gotta get back on streaming that. Even though
oh man.
I was the only
Mhm.
person watching.
I
Uh,
actually was thinking the other day about getting an arcade stick so I could play the Steam version of Galaga a little bit better. Yeah, now that's the stuff, right? That's good.
now this is where. All right, what you got to do is you got to get like an arcade stick, but then like get it on like one of those big like the ones that fighting games like Street
Hmm.
Fighter 2 or Street Fighter 6 or whatever now. Like Street Fighter people get or Tekken or whatever, and get it like customized to have like a big Galaga chip on it.
Oh, that would be
See,
sweet.
then you'd be the coolest guy.
That's what the ladies would say, certainly.
You would be
Um,
so cool.
now, I don't know if I tell you this, Ben. I got earlier this week
Yeah.
a arcade one up Galaga machine, so I
You
now
got
have
you got one of
the
them. Yeah,
I
yeah.
got one of them, and I got it on Facebook Marketplace uh,
Ooh.
for a cool hundo, which felt like a
Oh. Oh
deal.
yeah, that's a good. Yeah, because those like one up machines are pretty pricey, right? Like
Yeah, I mean $300-400 probably. I don't know,
and
but
for like what is probably like a mid LCD screen, a little
yeah,
joystick, and then like some plywood, right?
yeah,
Like
some
it's
really
probably
nice
like a
plywood.
Raspberry Pi or
Yeah,
something.
absolutely. Yeah, there's like a processor about this big running the whole thing. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean that was good for an audio
Yeah, for
podcast.
those of you, he made a small face. Like,
Yes.
I'm sure there's a way to mod those and just add every ROM,
Oh,
right? Like,
absolutely.
I'm sure if you just Google add ROMs to one up cabinet,
Yeah.
like it takes like 2 seconds,
I'll put that in
right?
Chat GPT and see what it says.
Oh, good lord!
No, and what this also opens up the door to, and this is where I think that my life has really dramatically improved since the last time we spoke, Ben.
Great.
I have the big Galaga. I used to have a small tabletop Galaga.
Oh yeah, that's what my next. How big is the big Galaga?
The big Galaga is standard one up arcade size, which means it's sort of like you're seated at it, and
Okay.
it's the controls are 1-to-1, but the box is a little smaller.
So it's on the floor.
It
Like the
is,
bottom of it touches the floor, but
but
if
it
you're
doesn't have the
sitting in a chair,
riser.
it comes up to
Yeah,
about eye level. Is what
yeah, that's right.
okay.
But I had a little tabletop one, which I took to my office at work. So now I have Galaga at work and at home, so I can just Galaga anytime I want to.
Wow, that's it's so this is such a uh, this is such a boring thing to observe. but it is wild how absolutely spoiled we are with the ability to be entertained at any time ever.
What's
Like
that?
you can't there is no time in our lives now where like any moment I could play Slay the Spire. It's on my phone.
Mhm.
If I'm anywhere, I could play this, card like this deck builder roguelike, which is a lot of fun to play anytime. Uh, when I was like I mean like going through college, same for you. Like it's like the idea of like I would take the train down to the university I went to. Like the idea, I remember borrowing my roommate's portable DVD player to watch DVDs on the train ride, and I thought that was the coolest shit I'd ever experienced in my entire life.
I mean, you say that, and it honestly just sounds still pretty cool now. Like,
Yeah, you know what?
I think the
Because it has
portable
a higher
DVD
buy
player.
rate than
Oh,
if I streamed it onto
oh
the
wow,
train.
yeah, absolutely. I
Or
mean,
bit rate? I don't know.
but let me tell you this, Ben. I think you might be able to relate to this because I know you are a big, you're an arcade boy, right? You like a good
I
arcade.
love the arcade, but I'll add the proviso that I'm more of a pinball. Like I'm an arcade guy that enjoys an arcade cabinet, but like generally if I'm at an arcade or a barcade or something like that, like I might give the arcade cabinets a little bit of attention and then like just play pinball the whole time.
There you go. But today, let me tell you what I did. I think this will click for you as well. I came back from teaching one of my classes to my office where Minnie Gallagher's sitting there.
Right.
I'm kind of tired. It's a hot day here in West Virginia. I need just to relax. I get in my office. I get myself an ice cold bottle of water out of my mini fridge,
Oh
and I
wow.
turn on Gallagher's attract mode, and I just soak in the sounds. I
It,
just sitting there. I'm not playing Galaga. I'm
I
just
do like this.
enjoying.
Okay, you
Yeah, I'm
got
just
me.
enjoying the sound of the attract mode. And I feel like as someone who's spent time in arcades,
Yeah, yeah,
there
yeah, yeah.
is an arcade sound that
Oh
when you
yeah.
hear it makes you it touches some part of your soul too. What is the arcade sound that like really gets you going? Like when you
I
hear it from.
I know the one. I don't know what the game is.
Oh.
And so maybe you know, but and actually it's probably actually, this might be a false memory. This might be a because you know what? I think this is a 2600 sound now that I think about it.
Mm-hmm.
What is this from a 2600 game or an arcade game? The bow, 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 like you know that one
Oh, I
because it's
do.
in every. Oh, is that in the terrible Pac-Man
Oh, it might be.
2600?
That could
Because
be 2600 Pac-Man.
yeah, because that has that dunk 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 burn burn burn.
Instead
Everyone
of
should.
proper waka waka waka.
Yeah, but it is fun like during the worst stay at home parts of 4 years ago. I would listen to like I would put on like because you could find like on YouTube or something like just arcade sounds and I would put that on like
Yeah.
in the same way that like you might put on like somebody. I'm sure you've done this, the Enterprise hum.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
8
I've
hours of Enterprise hum, which is on YouTube?
absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, 1000%. And I feel like, Ben, you may be the only person on earth I can talk to about this. Just the idea that, like, sometimes I need to hear Gallagher's attract mode,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
I need to hear the hum of a warp engine cruising along at a steady warp 4.
You know what, what has a really annoying, attract mode
What's
is
that?
Gauntlet 2.
Oh, I don't know if I know this one right away.
Because I remember at my regular arcade that I go to, Logan Arcade here in Chicago, they used to have a Gauntlet 2 out, and every time I think they had to like, they turned off, like, the audio for the attract mode or something. It would blast at the highest volume. Ba, ba, da, da, ba, 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 da, da, ba,
Oh,
ba, ba, da, da,
okay. I
ba,
know
and
this
then
one. I take it
Yeah.
back. No, you did that. Yeah, I do know
Yeah.
this one. It didn't.
Yeah.
When you said it, I didn't know, but then I heard the music, and it was as if
It
you had
full
like
blast.
as if you had like a digital orchestra backing your voice there. Like
Yeah.
I could hear it in perfect fidelity.
And well, and this was at the time. They don't do this anymore, but on weekends they used to open up at noon, and no one would go on at noon, and that's why they don't do this anymore. But I would go at noon, like noon on a Saturday, or even better, noon on a Sunday, when no one's going. Like people will filter in the evening because it's a barcade.
Yeah,
Like
and
it.
they're at church.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, they're all at church, of course. And so I would go and it would be just completely empty. And then like so I would, have all these, pinball machines and arcade cabinets to myself. Uh and like so the Gauntlet 2 machine would blast that sound of like that little theme, I think kind of based on the presumption that it would be in a full room of people talking and, sipping cokes and whatever. But instead, it was in a big empty room where, like, occasionally there would be like a little bit of an attract mode theme. Um, but yeah, and also I'm gonna loop back. I'm gonna do an annoying thing, which is I'm gonna loop back to something you said like 10 minutes ago and
Oh,
say that.
listeners love this.
Yeah, well, because no, listeners do love this because there's someone who agrees with me that was screaming in their head, and they're just like, "When's someone going to stand up to what Jess said?
Oh
It
no.
can't go unchallenged."
Uh
And
oh.
now I'm coming back 50 minutes later and challenging you,
Well,
which
bring
is
it.
to say, I think Pac-Man Tournament Edition 2 is very good.
The new challengers. Which one? The
I
World
it was
Warriors.
for
What is
the
that?
PS3. It was the second Pac-Man Tournament Edition or Championship Edition
Alpha.
2 like plus. So you're not wrong.
Ben, yeah, that is. First of all, I don't believe that's a real game. So your argument is already null and void right from the start. But what makes this a good Pac-Man game? That
Yeah,
makes it
play it. It's amazing.
so. It was
It looked good. It
Pac-Man
had great
Super
music.
Ultra
What?
Diamond.
All right. So wait, Pac-Man Championship Edition 2 is not for the
Pac-Man.
PlayStation. Was for the PlayStation 4. So this isn't the one. Oh, is it? All right.
Oh
Here we
yeah,
go. Here we go. This is the one. This is the one. All right. Here we go. This is the one that I love. The
yeah.
2010 Pac-Man Championship Edition DX. That's the one.
Yes.
And there's somebody sitting at home. They have their earbuds in and they're cheering. They're clapping. They're clapping. They're screaming. They're running around the room and going, "Yes, yes, yes." Ben said it. He didn't let Jess erase. Didn't let Jess erase Pac-Man Championship Edition DX.
I don't know, Ben. I don't know. I don't see a lot of these in the arcades these days, but I still see a fair number of Pac-Mans.
Well, they do some arcades. I've been to that have like the 4-player cabinet that have like the first version of, I don't know if it's Championship Edition, but it's like in a cocktail. Anyway, everybody loves all this arcade talk in our
Oh,
adventure
that's
game
what they're tuning in for. That's why we called this
podcast.
Quest, the arcade game podcast.
Oh man, like this should be. I take it all back. Let's talk about arcades. Next time you're in Chicago, I'll take you up to Galloping Ghost,
Yeah.
which is this incredible arcade in the
Mhm.
the suburbs of Chicago.
Well, we
It
can
has like
talk
this
about this off
enormous
stream,
collection. But
but
I
I'm going
guess
to
we
be
can
in.
talk about. Yeah, yeah,
I'm going to
yeah,
be in
yeah.
Chicago sooner than you think.
Oh, whoa!
But we'll
Cliffhanger for a conversation off the podcast.
Listeners will have to wonder.
A mystery. I like, wow.
Where in the Midwest is Deca Jedi? Yeah,
Chicago. All
yeah,
right.
yeah. I guess I spoiled that.
All right. But let's, you know what? That is it is I think it's time. So we're going to talk about comedy adventure games.
Sorry. There we go. That's
um, but comedy adventure games. Now, Jess, you've been thinking long and hard about this, so I want to toss it to you first.
all right. Yeah, I mean, the way I was thinking about this, I mean, on the one hand, you have explicitly comedy adventure games, right? Like you've got your Day of the Tentacle that is saying out to be a comedy start to finish. Then maybe you have games that include some comedy along the way, but maybe that's not the entire focus of them. Then you have games that are unintentionally funny. Those are good. Uh,
What's the unintentionally funny
I
game?
would say a good chunk of the Police Quest series manages
Yeah,
to be unintentionally funny. Like that's one that I definitely think of. Part of it is it's funny because it's so weird. Part of it is it's funny because sometimes it's so bad. But
yeah.
I don't think Jim Walls was
There,
saying now it's like I'm going to get a real laugh em up here.
yeah. It is funny because it's like Police Quest is very funny, as is all of the Walls, Jim
Oeuvre,
Walls output at Sierra slash Tsunami. We could add what is it, Blue Force?
yes,
We could
even
add Blue
funnier.
Force in there. But Blue Force is pretty funny. Like because like Jim Walls's cop games and plus Codename Iceman are uh like it's very obvious that he's a cop with like a retired policeman with absolutely no writing experience, no video games experience, none of that. Making games, it is like it it's somehow like very outsider art, except that it is done by one of the largest publishers of games for the PC. like,
Yes, it's
it's
an
so strange.
outsider with the most mainstream opinions, presumably possible.
Well, yeah, but
Like,
it's like yeah, like it's just, but outsider with like within the context of it's like
an
we went
outsider by the
into this
standards of
guy's
Reagan's America.
garage and we discovered these incredible paintings and he never went to art school.
Uh-huh.
And that's what Police Quest is to me. So we went to Jim Walls's garage and we found Police Quests 1, 2, and 3 and Blue Force and Codename Iceman. And it's like, wow, this guy never wrote a thing in his life, never programmed.
Had
And
never heard
here,
of video games before he
yeah.
made these.
And
thought he
are
thought
they
he
good
invented
games?
them.
No. But
Yeah.
are they interesting artifacts? Absolutely. Anyway, sorry.
But Ben, I've had a hot take on this for a long time, and this is going to get the listeners riled up. But I'm going to say it anyway. This is a hot take. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Hot take. I think a traditional adventure game. I'm talking like an adventure game that has inventory management where you use objects with people and things in the world to progress, like standard old school adventure game,
So you're leaving out The Walking Dead, and you're
or
leaving
Life is
like
Strange, like a
Life is
modern
Strange.
narrative game. I'm talking
All
like,
right.
yeah,
Okay.
traditional adventure game. I
Or
think it
like
is,
a fork in the tail, the FMV adventure starring
yeah,
Rob Schneider.
that's right. That's, yeah, that kind of, which I have it down here in the show notes, the funniest adventure game of all
Yeah,
time,
yeah, yeah.
but not
Anyway,
because of Rob Schneider. But here's my hot take. I feel like a traditional adventure game can't work without humor. I think that the genre. Whoa, hey. Oh man, the boo birds are out.
yeah.
Um, I feel like the genre is inherently silly enough with the idea of solving puzzles by using things you find lying around to accomplish your goals that without a dose of humor, it's a real ludo narrative dissonance, if you will. We really get like a strange, like, how do you tell a serious
All
story
right,
when you're
Professor.
slapping cat hair mustaches on your face? I
All
guess
right.
would be you need humor in there to make the ridiculousness of the genre work. That's my hot take.
I listen, I understand where you're coming from, but it's like there are good like kind of traditional point and clicks that aren't comedy. Like
Name
that Name 7. Okay, great. Let me open up the entire Wadjet catalog because, like, I mean, just one that immediately comes to mind. That excavation of Hobbs Barrow. Not funny at all. But like an incredible game. Like, but I mean, all of the Black Belt games. That's 5. Uh, that's
So
5 games.
okay,
And then
okay.
excavation of Hobbs Barrow, and
Ooh,
I
can't
don't
come up
know.
with number
I'll
7.
throw in
Yep, I
Techno
thought so.
Babylon. Like,
Yeah. I don't. I mean, that's
seven.
published by Wadjet. So I feel like at this point you're just like you're really grasping. I don't know. I don't think you. Turns out you don't have a good point to make.
But
No,
it's
I don't
like
know. I think this is
I
me.
understand what you're
Yeah,
saying. It makes,
I'm
like,
saying it in a
having it
provocative
be,
way.
yeah, having it be, having an adventure game be a comedy makes it a lot easier to do an adventure game. Like, it just lets you, but here's my response that isn't like a, well, what about the Shiva? It
Mm-hmm.
is, my response is like, isn't that a crutch? Like,
Ooh,
isn't that a
man.
challenge? Isn't that a limitation to the developers? Like, and then if a developer is able to make an adventure game that manages to overcome the ludo narrative dissonance,
What?
that captures you within like the within its narrative, and like, and within all how it builds up all its whatever, isn't that even more impressive than it's just like, all right, Guybrush put a big thing of tofu down his pants. That's a joke on that, like, he always has a million things in his pockets.
I like that. This is interesting to me. The idea of that, the inverse of my proposition,
Yeah.
the idea that maybe humor is a crutch sometimes. Because, I mean, it does allow you to hand wave away so much about the adventure game genre. You can get a lot of, well, that just happened, or,
Right.
huh, that's weird,
Yeah.
as an excuse not to have to think about creating a more realistic world where your puzzles would make sense.
Right. And I mean, they're like, and we'll get into more specific excuse me, more specific examples. But I, I like, I think also, with like, to like what you're saying, if it's a comedy game, uh, and I'll stick to Curse of Monkey Island. It still has, like, it has jokes on the mechanics of an adventure game. I'll go back to that. There are jokes about the all the stuff that Guybrush is carrying around,
Mm-hmm.
but also, like, it doesn't just. I don't think that Curse, or really any of the Monkey Island games, even Escape, I don't think, has like a, well, that just happened, which some adventure games do.
Yes.
And
I think this is
uh
a pet peeve that you and I both share.
right.
I mean, the very Whedon esque. Well, that just happened. Like there was a lot of that. Just to draw like the most random example, I think the Minecraft story mode that Telltale put out.
Now, you played that on your stream, is that correct?
That's
Yeah,
correct, and
I
I
didn't watch any of that. What? How, like, like, we
wow,
don't
Ben,
watch everything that the other one does.
I do. I watch everything you do. I'm
Well,
sorry, I
you
did.
should, because it's incredible.
It is. I
But
mean, that's why I do it. I wouldn't want to miss it. I don't want to hear about it from somebody else.
yeah, that's right. That's right. Otherwise, you'll just have to get the rundown from I don't know.
Some random Grayson on the street
Yeah,
or
just some
something like
Grayson walking down the
yeah.
street. Anyway,
Yeah,
yeah, like, so Minecraft. I didn't.
that's the
What,
comedy there. Like I mean, first of all,
really?
you have this like star-studded cast. Like Patton Oswalt is your star. You've got Paul Rubens in there turning in a great performance. Brian
That's impressive.
Posehn. I mean, you've got some really top-notch comedy folks, and the writing in it, I mean, it's doing that thing that games do sometimes where it's like definitely doing things in the tone that would suggest this is intended as a joke, but there's not really a joke written there. So there's lots of,
Oh,
that just happened.
I hate, and that's the worst part about that is, and like I understand, like the adventure, like the Minecraft story mode was expressly made for kids, right?
Yes.
Uh, but like, I mean, I think even like the weaker or less liked Telltale games generally had like good writing in them.
Yes.
But you know what has the most that just happened comedy talking about that type of game is that awful, and I did watch you stream this. Awful, awful. Tales of the Borderlands 2.
Oh
That
no.
is There is
Oh,
no game on this planet that is more that just happened. That every joke, every the it's constantly that just happening you. I've never felt more present in my life. I felt like I was at a yoga retreat because I was constantly being reminded that things were happening.
that game is such a good pull. New Tales from the Borderland. It
You
is.
you you erased it from your
I
mind because
did.
it
I
was
completely
awful.
did. Yeah, I mean, as much I love the first game, Gang. The I like took a little break about 15 years ago from playing adventure games. It was Tales from the Borderlands that brought me back. I loved that game. Loved it. Then the
Mhm.
sequel was absolute trash. It was a game where there was a joke every 15 seconds and for 10 hours straight not a single one of those jokes landed.
It was the Airplane 2 of
Oh
adventure
man.
games.
Yeah, I
Uh,
mean, it was just dying up
Airplane 2
there.
is actually not that bad. You know, some of that the William Shatner
Yeah.
jokes are kind of funny. Uh,
It's
but
hard for a game to die as hard as Borderlands Tales from the Borderlands 2 did. It was just oh. No, Ben, now I don't know if I can get back in the zone. But I mean, I think this is the challenge. Right? I mean, it's like how do you do comedy well in an adventure game on the one hand? Like most of these people making games and writing games aren't typically going to be comedy writers.
no.
And I think you'd be the first to say, I mean, you don't mind me sharing this. I
Uh-huh.
mean,
Why this has come up in a previous podcast. So,
okay,
yeah.
so I mean, you
Yeah.
are a comedy expert. You've been to school for comedy.
I literally took like college classes at the Second City, the comedy theater here in Chicago. I have performed on stages. I'm performing on a stage again on Sunday. I've written plays. I've produced shows. I've like, you know, I'm not big. I'm not famous. I'm not doing it as my career, but it is something I would say I know. It is something I do a lot of.
As an expert in comedy,
Right.
a comedy expert, I want to ask you if you'll bear with me,
Yeah.
could you rate the following games
Okay.
on a scale of 1 to 10 by how funny they are?
Just only by comedy. By
Only
how
by
much they
comedy.
okay, great, great, great. Okay.
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 And you're welcome to just give me the number. Or if you want to like elaborate on any of these,
All right. Yeah.
the door is open. Okay. The Secret of Monkey Island.
You know, I'm gonna say it's a 5.
Oh wow. Return to Monkey Island.
Return to Monkey Island. You know, that has I because I've only played that once versus like Secret I've played like dozens of times. And I'll elaborate like this isn't putting Secret down. I think this is actually a note that I had for this is that I think you could divide comedy adventures or adventure games that have like kind of are more on that side of the house into comedy adventures and droll adventures.
Yes.
Like that are a little more sardonic,
Yeah.
that are a little more like they're arch. They're not
Mhm.
gut busters.
Yeah.
And
Especially Secret. Yeah.
Secret specifically is a droll
Mhm.
adventure. Like there are good gags in it, but it's not like a laugh a minute. I like Secret is a game that is a lot heavier on atmosphere, and the
Mhm.
atmosphere, like, and I think that's actually one thing I like about it is that it's not like a straightforward comedy like the series eventually becomes. Um, and so that's why I said 5.
So a failing
Return,
grade or failing grade for Secret of Monkey Island. I just get that in my notes.
Return. I think that's I think that had a couple more, but you know what? I don't think Ron Gilbert rolls with like ha ha super funny, because I would put like Thimbleweed at a 5 too.
Mhm.
Yeah, like Return to Monkey Island, I'd probably like put at a 5 or a 6. Like I would say those are more on the droll side of the house.
Mhm.
I would,
Yeah.
yeah.
And in return, I mean, you can't count the fact that that's Ron Gilbert basically laughing at his audience, which would maybe add another point or two to it. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
It's okay. So I have only played like maybe the first like 10 minutes of that game multiple times because I kept getting killed by like a brick outside of the house
Mhm.
or whatever. But you know what? Like I've watched you play it. I've like I it's a pretty funny, like Steve Maritsky, if that's how you pronounce his name. He's a great writer. Like he's one of like Infocom and later Legends like great. So I would put that at like a 7. I think it has some pretty good, like the T and not T. That's a funny joke.
Yes.
Like
That's,
that's a good joke.
yeah, that's a clever comedy premise to hang a puzzle on.
Yeah.
All right. Good answer. Now, this one I'm fascinated to hear your answer to. The Adventures of Willie Beamish. That game wants you to think it's very
Yeah,
funny.
see, okay, so that is on the comedy side of the house versus like comedy versus droll. It's just that it's not funny. So that's
Yeah,
like a 1 or a 2.
yeah.
Like it
And these
I
are the most
love
tragic ones, I think. Like the
yeah.
ones that desperately want to be funny and simply are not.
It's Willie Beamish's problem, and like I haven't played this since like I streamed it I think in like 2020, 2021. Its problem is that it like first off, it's like clearly trying to like inspired by like early Bart Mania. Like
Mhm.
it's a game that's trying to be Bart Mania, but like
Yes.
kind of similar to what happens with The Simpsons is that it's written by adults that just want to write about the adults. Except with The Simpsons, it's just that like Homer is also a compelling character and he is the main character. Like it's like at first The Simpsons is like, wow, this little boy is rude. He calls his dad Homer. Ridiculous.
You can't do that. You
But
can't
like
do that,
yeah.
Bart.
But like
Disrespectful.
that is disrespectful.
People don't
People
talk enough about that. That's very disrespectful.
that's what when our country went down the tubes, and Murphy Brown as a single mother, unacceptable. But uh
Okay, so Willie Beamish
Willie
won.
Beamish is like a 1 or a 2. It also has like
Yeah.
racist jokes. It's not good.
Yeah. Let me throw you a good one. Day of the Tentacle.
Day of the Tentacles like a 8, 9 around there.
Yeah. Gotta be one of the best ever, right?
Yeah.
Uh
Because it has what it has is it has funny puzzles.
yes. It has
Like
funny puzzles and good jokes. I think it
yeah.
does the two together maybe better than just about anything else, with the exception of what else is on my list? Kyrandia 3. Now I know this game's funny because it's got a laugh track. That's how you know it's funny, Ben. I always knew when to laugh at Kyrandia 3. There was never any question this is a funny game. Where's Kyrandia 3 at on? Now I know you are,
No,
and our listeners don't
yes,
know this. You're the
you're
world's biggest
goading me.
you're the world's biggest Kyrandia 3 fan.
I am.
And I mean
I
literally
am.
probably.
I am. Oh,
So
absolutely.
now remember, this is only a 10-point scale.
Yeah. All right. Well, obviously it's 10, I guess. Um but all right. A
Okay,
few
two
more.
more. I've got two more for you. Sam and
Wait,
Max
wait.
hit the road.
Okay, well, Salmon. So Kyrandia 3, which I recently played, it's not actually that funny. I find it very charming and weird.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not a good game, but I'm very charmed by it, and I think that the laugh track. I think that you're a coward if you play it without the laugh track. I think you are. Yeah, you. If you refuse to play it with
Me?
the laugh track on, saying this to anyone, if you're listening, you're a coward if you play without the laugh track on. It's there for a reason. Play it as the developers intended.
You can't see this right now, gang, but his nostrils are flaring. I mean, Ben means business here.
Yeah.
He's not
Sam and
fooling
Max.
around.
Sam and Max hit the road. This is going to be the one that I give my first like straightforward 10 to, because I think Sam and Max hit the road is one of, and and this is why I really enjoy the Telltale Sam and Max's. I'm playing season 2 right now, like the remastered season 2, and I'm
Yeah.
really enjoying it. I think those are really really good, and I love what they've done, and I think they're funny. But like I I just think there's something about Hit the Road. I think the joke density and the hit to miss ratio on the jokes is better than any other adventure game. I just think that's true. I think that intro with the mad scientist is so funny. I think that the joke where like they throw the ticking head of the mad scientist out the window, and it's like, let's throw it out the window, there's no one we care about out there. And it's like, and then he Sam throws it out, says, hope no one was like on that bus. Like, that's just so like the writing, there's just constant, there's a real density and chewiness,
Yes.
and the performances are perfect. Like, I think that is just one of the funniest. Like, as an adventure game, I think it's like a B plus, but I think the joke writing is better than anyone else's.
Wow.
Yeah.
I always the line that always gets me, and I'm paraphrasing it here, and I'm going to beef it live on the air. But it's the non sequitur where Sam says, like, my mind is a swirling miasma of turgid ideas and scintillating thoughts. And then Max just chimes in, me too. Which I just think is such a good bit. Okay, I agree. I think that is one of the best of all time, but you have forgotten about my last game on this list. So you're gonna walk back a lot of these comments about Sam Max
Okay.
hit the road here
Okay.
in just a
All
moment.
right.
Space Quest 2.
All right. All right. All right. You're once again, you're stacking the deck with in jokes that perhaps people that follow us on the stream, uh, if you're a regular viewer of our respective streams, which you should be,
You absolutely should be.
if you're a respective viewer of our streams, Jess, when you played Space Quest 2, like and this is like, I don't know, 3 years ago, you you kept remarking on, and I'll admit, was funny, like the writing in the game, there's a fair amount of jokes, and a lot of them, like Space Quest 2 has a reputation for not being very funny. And that's not correct. There are jokes in the writing, and so you were like, wow, this is pretty funny, this is pretty funny. And myself and my friend Grayson, who I stream with, then relentlessly teased and bullied you, and we've continued to do that for 3 years. So
Yeah.
anyway, that's a 10.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure that you were going to get to I need to record that score. So yeah, there you have it.
Here's
Least
a
funny
question.
game of all time.
Yeah.
Willie Beamish.
Yeah.
Most funny games of all time. It's a tie between Sam and Max Hit the Road and Space Quest 2.
Here's a question for you. So I want to go back to this idea of like a droll adventure game versus like a funny adventure game. And I want to ask you, like, or a comedy adventure, not a funny adventure game, but a comedy adventure game. I want to ask you, what would you classify each of the Space Quests? Because I think the Space Quest games, which are like, that's a comedy series, I think it kind of straddles the line
Okay.
sometimes. I think some of the space quests are more droll, and then some of them are a little more funny.
Okay,
Um,
let me give my take on this.
so that's my thought. But I mean, you know, you're the expert here.
That's right. You're a comedy expert.
Yeah,
I'm a Space Quest expert.
yeah.
Those are our two domains of expertise.
Beat the Geeks, for those of you familiar with
Oh my
late
gosh,
90s, early
that's a
odd
pull
Comedy Central game shows.
that aren't Ben Stein. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see here. So I'm going to say I feel like 1 through 4 are droll with a good bit of comedy, more jokes than Monkey Island, but especially 1 through 3 don't feel like the jokes are the main thing. I think by the time you get to 5 and Roger is like sitting down and there's a whoopee cushion fart sound and stuff like that, you're getting a little bit more slapsticky. I feel like the body of the game is getting a little sillier. But even then, there's serious bits of Space Quest 5. 6
Like,
feels like it's written for jokes.
it's gonna be, well, you know, like Scott Murphy isn't blah. You're like comedy, you know, like that's
Yeah.
not really.
Waka
That's not.
waka.
Yeah, he's not a waka waka man. In terms of comedy, I would say because one is definitely droll and two is
Mm-hmm.
definitely droll. Uh,
3's a little silly.
and that's the thing. And then I think as it kind of like then it starts to increase in volume, like because three. Because it's like you can't say that Fester Blatz is not like just straight
Yeah.
comedy,
And
nor
you're
can you say that
encasing people in
Arnold.
jello
Yeah,
and stuff like that. No, I agree. No, I can see the case. And of course, now this is, I don't know if we've talked about this on stream, but I believe that the two of us are not the world's biggest Space Quest 4 fans. I would say that's a game that is, I don't know, it has gags. I don't know. Space Quest is a tough one. Again, I think that people remember it as more of a comedy game than maybe the series is. I think like Monkey Island. I think we have a tendency to remember, especially Monkey Island and 1 and 2, as being just like packed wall to wall jokes. And that's absolutely not what those games are.
yeah.
And I think Space Quest gets,
Two is more funny.
yes,
Like
but
two
it's still
turns
not
it up.
every
But
minute. Yeah, I
yeah,
was thinking of a good example of like what I think of as a droll game. And I feel like the Tex Murphy games fall really nicely
those
into
are
this category.
droll. Yeah,
Yeah. There's definitely like a sort of sarcastic winking tone to them. But again, he's not reaching into his jacket, his trench coat to pull out like a rubber chicken or anything like that. Not putting Guybrush on blast.
yeah. Like I've only played Under a Killing Moon, which I thought was remarkable. I like maybe we could. I've only played Under a Killing Moon. I haven't played Pandora or Overseer or Mean Streets, I suppose. But you know, I thought that was remarkable, and yeah, that was droll and it was charming.
Yes. How do I know that you recently streamed not too long ago Toonstruck, a game that aspires to be, I think, a full on comedy game in the vein of like a Sam & Max or a Day of the
Yeah,
Tentacle. How well does it succeed for you? Like what I saw of it, I wasn't convinced they had the juice. They had a great
yeah,
performance
it's
out
like
of,
that was fine.
yeah,
That was fine. Toonstruck is so weird. I think that if I played it at release, I would be among the people today singing its praises, which is another point I wanted to get to, which is that a thing about comedy is that a lot of comedy has a limited shelf life. Like of a lot of like, genres, like comedy very often like not even like though it can certainly be like certainly like there are social issues that it's like in the 90s we're happy to make those jokes and then in 2024 we're like oh
oh
like
no.
and we could talk about Leisure Suit Larry in a little bit but um but like there's also just like things that are like just kind of perceived as funnier at a certain time that just aren't like just just don't land anymore. And so it's like the 90s had this like that particular moment. Like there's that sequence with like the kinky cows, like,
Yes.
and like
Now, for
that
those of you
to
who haven't
me.
played Toonstruck, you hear that and you think he couldn't literally mean kinky cows, but we're talking like
Yeah,
a
like
dominatrix
whips
Holstein.
and
Yeah,
leather and like torture me daddy and like
utter
stuff like
play.
that. Yeah, utter play. and so yeah, like like that was like a joke. Here's okay.
The
This
comedy
actually,
expert.
this is reminding me also of a conversation that you and I have had, maybe on a stream or maybe just on our Discord, or maybe or just talking to each other, which was uh like there was a period where just it was a joke to have like an Elvis cameo.
Absolutely. That was the funniest thing in the world, like circa 1992, right? Like there's
Yeah,
nothing
like
funnier than just like
and that's
an
in like
Elvis.
Space Quest 5, but it's in like every game.
Yeah.
Like it's in Day of the Tentacle. It's
Hmm.
in like there's all these games that like it's in Les Manly,
I think
in
it's in
Search
Leisure
of the
Larry
King.
3, isn't it? He's at the bar at some point after you meet Passionate Patty, I think. Yeah, I mean it's everywhere.
And like,
An
there's just a
anti-union joke.
oh yeah,
It's just
exactly.
everywhere.
Like and again for context, it's like we just discovered playing a lot of like games from the early 90s. There would just be jokes about how unions suck, which just really feels like a like late HW Bush, early Clinton era like thing. Anyway, but like yeah, like and so to loop back to my point, there are just some like not even like saying like it's like there are jokes that that might be we look back and be like we really shouldn't have been joking about like a queer person or whatever. But a like just the idea of like Elvis walking by for some reason as a non sequitur was just a big hit
He doesn't
at
belong
the
there. He's
time.
dead. That's the whole joke. I
And
mean,
so
it's so hacky.
there's something like when I think about Toonstruck where I'm just kind of like I have a feeling that if I played it at the time, it would have like I would have a lot more fondness because when I went back and I played it now, I was mostly just impressed. Like the most impressive thing about Toonstruck to me, starring Christopher Lloyd, but with a murderer's row of
Mhm.
of talent,
Yeah, Star Trek Three's
including
Christopher Lloyd.
Ben Stein, who is earlier mentioned, but like Dan
He's big.
Castellaneta, the voice of Homer Simpson,
Mhm.
like I think Pamela Hayden, another Simpsons voice,
Tress
like
McNeil.
Tres, or yeah,
Wasn't she in
Tres.
that?
It was Tress McNeil. I don't know if it
Yeah.
was Pamela Hayden. Anyway,
Oh,
but like a ton of like voices like that are very recognizable, many of whom are still working today. Like great top shelf vocal talent, and it looks great. It's just like that the humor just wasn't necessarily for me, and I was just kind of like it just kind of missed me. Like I was like a 4 or 5 for me, but
yeah. Interestingly, I think I've never played it myself, but I did watch you stream it because I don't miss your streams. I just want to, just again,
mhm.
it's something, it just matters a lot to me. But when, like, as you were playing it, I think for me, what leapt out was that it's trying to do absurdity, which should be more timeless than like super topical references, right? I mean, it's trying to go with that absurd vibe. But then it's like, boy, it just shows how much it comes down to the writing because, like, the absurdity of Sam and Max Hit the Road or Day of the Tentacle, as fresh today as it was the day they came out. And yeah, Toonstruck just feels like it was, frozen in amber the moment it was released.
Yeah. And I mean, like, yeah. And okay, so then I will toss it like I never, and I still haven't really. I've played a little bit of them, but I still haven't like on the subject of like stuff that does have some age issues is like the Leisure Suit Larry games. Like I didn't play them because I was like my parents wouldn't have let me play them. I wasn't allowed to watch MTV when I was a kid. Like,
Wow.
yeah.
Just
It
imagine, Ben, when you were being forbidden to watch MTV, I had already auditioned for the real world.
wow, incredible.
I mean, that is the age gap that we're working with there. I'm still waiting for a callback on that. I'm very available.
Yeah.
Auditioned, I
I'm
think, in
eminently
'99.
available.
That's right. But yeah. I mean, Larry is like, wow. I tell this story all the time on the stream. I don't think I've told it on the podcast yet, but my mom got me a copy of Leisure Suit Larry 1 for my 12th birthday. Before
Wow.
she gave it to me, she took it out of the shrink wrap and played it start to finish, and then decided, yeah, this is appropriate. I know exactly what this game is.
Your
I'm going to
mom
give it to
solved
Jess.
all the puzzles in Larry 1.
She
Uh,
did. Now, what you don't know about my mom, absolutely filthy mind. Just
that's
really
great.
nasty. Yeah, no, she had no trouble with Larry 1.
It's like my son Jess is going to learn about sex workers sooner or later, and that he
Yeah,
will absolutely need to use a condom.
yeah. She just handed it to me and said, here you go. If you have any questions about this, just let me know. It was just like I think it was in lieu of the talk. I think I was like, she left my sex education up to Al Lowe, and he just walked in there with his
Terrible.
saxophone and taught me everything I needed to know. Um, yeah, but Larry's a tough one. I mean, again, it's definitely trying to be a comedy game, and it's a comedy game that I
And
think,
there are some good gags. I'm not going
yeah,
to like even like some that still are pretty good.
yeah. And for a lot of it, it's pretty self aware. Like, I think it knows what it's doing when it deploys, some of its humor. It knows that ultimately the game itself is the butt of the joke. It knows that Larry is certainly the butt of the joke. But yeah, then it veers into occasionally humor that, maybe was a little bit easier to get away with in the '90s and you couldn't today. And then humor that, like, even at the time it was released, it's hard to imagine how it happened. I
Which
mean,
one is it? 5 or that like has like the rap music plot?
that is 5, and
Yeah.
it includes famously, infamously, a whole scene where Passionate Patty is in blackface, which
Yeah, see that was already like that was not that was we all
that
like I
we knew.
think in the 90s
Yeah,
people knew that was
yeah.
like not like something that you
Mhm.
could do.
Right. And then you see some of that too with, homophobia, transphobia. Both of those get a lot of focus in Larry Six in some pretty ugly ways. Yeah, I mean, there are bits of it that, yeah, I mean, I guess in the '90s you could still tell those sorts of jokes in a way that they were common enough that sadly it didn't maybe stand out to make them. But ultimately, I mean, for me, I can't speak for everybody. People play what they want to play, but it kind of spoils, especially 5 and 6 for me, knowing that some of these comedy bits are lurking in there that yeah, weren't terribly funny then, and certainly don't play now.
Right.
But then it's like a lot of Larry 1 through 3. If you can get past like the literal objectification of women, which is again done somewhat tongue in cheek. I like to think there's some good gags in there, but I mean it's a tough series. I mean, yeah, I think going all the way back to 1, there are aspects of it that are pretty hard to defend today.
Uh yeah. Like
Canceled.
yeah, that's it. Hello, you're canceled. That's what this whole in fact podcast that the whole podcast is over.
This is our final
This has
episode.
been a sting operation on Al Low.
Yeah, we've been just emailing him copies of these MP3s, just getting him ready for this episode.
But yeah, I mean, like, so, like, what would you what would you say is the funniest adventure game? What's your favorite comedy adventure game? Which one? I have a good one in mind that I think you might
That's a
like.
good. Yeah, I mean, it's hard for me to argue against Sam and Max or Day of the Tentacle. I mean, those two are so far up there for me. I think one we haven't mentioned that I personally love quite a bit. I'm a huge Freddie Farkas fan. Like, you know me, I love Josh Mandel's writing. I mean, he is actually someone with a background in comedy writing that brings
Yeah.
that to designing adventure games. And I think that is a really funny game that that never fails to make me laugh.
It has a like talk about like in the like talking about like Toonstruck. It has a voice cast that really enhances the jokes. And this is
Absolutely.
something that, like, you know, I touched on a little bit with Sam and Max, but it's like also uh with the voice performances, and this isn't to like y- you'll you'll play a lot of today's like kind of smaller scale lower budget adventure games. They don't have like the caliber of voice talent that like a Freddie Farkas had. That's
Your Freddie
fine
Farkases.
because, like, you know, this is done on like even without inflation on a smaller budget. Like even Freddie Farkas probably had a higher budget just like in the same numbers, and that's even before you get to inflation.
Mhm.
Um like that's fine, but it's like you play a game like Freddie Farkas Frontier Medicine or like Sam and Max Hit the Road, and the level of voice talent will like they know, or Gary Owens specifically in Space Quest
Yes.
6.
Yes.
Uh 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 like he's very good in 4, but in 6, in Space Quest 6, not a great game, but the descriptions are very funny. Like all of the narration bits are pretty funny. Like it really shows the difference between like the like I know a bunch of good local actors who are good
Yeah.
versus it's like I know like I'm working with professional voice talent, people who know how to really like voice act, and like that's I mean, you know, like Freddie Farkas I think has one of the absolute best voice casts. It's
Yeah. Just absolutely
so
stacked.
funny.
Just stacked.
It's
And
so the voice cast is so good in that game, and it takes a good joke and makes it a great joke.
absolutely. I totally agree. You know, and I guess one other I'd throw in before you tell me which one you had handpicked, the bespoke
Well,
option
no,
that you'd
for
mentioned.
you, a
Yes, that's
funny
right.
game. Yeah, yeah.
But let me get one more. You know, I think in the realm of maybe unintentionally funny games or games that are funny like as a side effect to doing what they're trying to do, you know, I think that Gabriel Knight 2 is a pretty funny piece of work for a game that is not trying to tell jokes at any point. I think that again, performances there work almost differently. It's like you have a bunch of, you know,
And it's a
relatively
great game
it's
also,
a great game.
which is
Yeah, everything
funny.
about it's
Like,
good. It's
yeah,
just a
yeah.
great game. It's a great CR game, maybe one of their very best.
Right,
But you know, you have a bunch of, you know, not well known actors who are in there. Like they seem like they really get the assignment. They're giving it 110%. They're playing to the back row with
right.
every single line.
Yeah.
And over the course of, you know, 7 or 8 hours, or however long it takes to finish that game, it adds up to something that I think is just like ridiculous and wonderful and serious and scary and romantic and everything. I mean,
I
this is just me gushing about Gabriel Knight 2 now. It's the best at everything.
I
It's
think it I
story
think
over.
that is kind of also because I think that really speaks to like Jane Jensen, who's the developer, like the lead of that game. Like obviously an adventure game, especially one like Gabriel Knight 2, like has a ton of like a massive team. But it's like, you know, you think about Jane Jensen and like obviously she's a big Anne Rice fan. Um yeah, Ben, you just blew my mind. You just gave me that face. But like obviously she's a big Anne Rice fan, and it's like there's like if you watch like an interview with a vampire or something like that, there's like a camp value
Yes.
to it, and so it's like you can enjoy it as like there you get like multiple kind of like there's kind of a cocktail things because there's like kind of this enjoyable narrative that you can enjoy, and then there's like kind of this camp, like you know, in Anne Rice and in the Gabriel Knight games, like there's like a queer element to it. Then like, but then there's just also the camp of like the like these B movie type actors like performing, and like the kind of goofy like green screen sets
Yeah.
and all of that like it
Lots of first takes seem to remain in the game, which
yeah.
that adds a shagginess that I think makes it a little more fun than it could be if everything was perfect. You know?
Yeah, it operates on multiple levels. I would also I would also say like a game like this is definitely not a comedy, but like Immortality kind of has that a little
Oh.
bit. Like Immortality, like, there are kind of funny because like the movies that you're going through in the FM like the recent Sam Barlow FMV adventure game Immortality, like there are definitely parts of it like where you see some of the clips of the movies, and the movies are like cheesy, like they're kind of cheesy
Yeah.
movies, right?
And then
Like
sometimes you're getting bloopers from those movies, which are intended to be funny.
yeah, like the that game is not a comedy.
It's
To be
hilarious.
very
You're playing
clear.
it wrong. You just clicked on the wrong clips.
Yeah, I played the wrong
I
clip
played
at
the
the yeah.
comedy path.
Like definitely not a
Yeah.
comedy, but like I think there's something to what you're saying, Jess, is like uh the the camp value of those performances and of the production value somehow enhance like Gabriel Knight 2, like so you can enjoy it as this gay werewolf like international globetrotting drama, but then also like kind of laugh at how kind of like this actually, Chess, you brought us all the way back to the start. You brought us back to what you were saying because
Oh.
what this does is the archness and the cheese of Gabriel Knight 2 gives it permission to like be as ambitious as it is. You see
Ah.
what I'm saying?
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
it's
No, I
like
like
with
this.
like a comedy game, your thesis here is it's like, well, like a true adventure game has to be a comedy because adventure games are like, you know, there's the dissonance, and Gabriel Knight 2 I think actually proves your point, is that
Whoa.
it is
Well, that's
not
not
a
an accident
comedy,
then.
but it is funny
That's right. And it's
and it's
funny without
good.
Gabriel ever having to be like, I don't know how I'm going to fit that in my pants.
Yeah.
Or yeah, it isn't having to do
And it
that
would be
sort of.
funny if Gabriel did like, don't say that to if you see Jane Jensen, because she would probably like find a way to make that, you know, an innuendo. Uh
Yeah. If he said that to Von Glauer, it would be a very different story.
right, exactly. But yeah, like Jess, I think it looped around.
I did it. Well, I mean, Ben, this is the third podcast I've ever recorded in my life, so I'm getting
Yeah.
kind of good at it now. I've actually, you don't realize this, but I've Socratic methoded you back to this point where now we're really full circle.
Yeah.
Now the soundboard's back.
Yeah.
So Ben, what was the game you had picked out for me?
Oh, I was going to say, there is no game
Oh, there is
is
no game is a
is
good
I
one.
would say, having watched you played that on your stream, there is no game is a good comedy adventure game that also has like that's built into the fundamentals. The comedy is also part of the actions that you take
Ah,
and
yeah, I
like
like that
the
one a lot.
mechanics of the game. I still haven't played it because like I was just like, like I want to forget all the puzzles having watched you
Absolutely.
play it.
Yeah.
But yeah, like there is no game is a like uh like there was kind of a run there. Maybe there's just two games, but maybe there was a third or fourth of like that. And what was that narrator game that came out like 10 years ago where you're like walking around in an office and there's a narrator and
Oh,
there's
the
like,
Stanley Parable.
yeah, the Stanley like there is no game and the Stanley Parable are both kind of operating on a similar level, right?
And isn't
Like
like Undertale somewhere like in that
a
neighborhood? I
little
haven't played
bit, a
Undertale.
little bit. That's not a like I mean it
Yeah.
has funny things. I would say that like it's not a comedy, but like Bastion is also like it's having fun with
Ah.
a narrator. Like
Mhm.
that sort of thing. But anyway,
Okay.
we looped around on your thesis, so I feel like we're done.
It's time to go to bed. It's
Yeah,
bedtime, babies.
I think we nicely and cleanly like kind of tied up and had a good discussion. I don't know if there's too much more we can say there.
No, I think we've nailed it. We've said everything that can be said about comedy video games, and Ben's opinions on those scores, those are locked in, folks.
Those are locked in. Sam and Max. If you know what, if there's a funnier game out there, let us know. But let me know. Quest podcast at gmail.com. Also, let us know at Quest Podcast if there is a Frogger sequel that is good. I'm going
The
to
burning
bet.
question of the day.
I'm going to bet you no one has an answer to that because there is no such thing as a good Frogger sequel, but there are good Pac-Man. So, so once again, you can find me on Twitch, PS_Garrick GARAK. You can find Jess,
At Decaf Jedi.
and I stream on Tuesday evenings, and Jess streams pretty much every other time.
I have a problem.
Yeah. But anyway, thank you so much for listening to us. And we'll be back next week when we discuss the subject of uh, which usage of I'm selling fine leather jackets is the funniest. That's the whole podcast.
And we're going to wear leather jackets. You won't be able to see it, but you'll be able to hear it kind of in our tone.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Yeah, we're going to have a real, like, we'll be tune struck all over. We're going to be all in leather. All right. Goodbye.